Camilla looked toward William, her expression controlled but visibly tense. "I don't understand why this has become such an issue," she said. "It's a tiara, William." William remained silent for a moment. "It isn't just a tiara," he finally replied. "You know what it represents." Camilla took a breath. "I respect your mother's memory, but I cannot spend the rest of my life avoiding everything connected to her." The room was quiet when Camilla made the request. There were no cameras, no reporters waiting outside, no crowd, only a handful of senior members of the royal household and the family itself, discussing the details of an upcoming public appearance. The conversation had been ordinary until Camilla mentioned the jewelry. She had been considering what she would wear. The dress had already been discussed. The occasion had been settled. But then her attention turned to one particular piece, a tiara. A tiara carrying a history so powerful that merely mentioning its name could change the atmosphere inside the room. Diana's tiara. Camilla looked toward Charles and explained that she wanted to wear it publicly. For a moment, Charles said nothing. He understood the significance. So did everyone else, but William's reaction was different. He had been listening quietly. Then he looked across the room. His expression changed, and when he finally spoke, his voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. "Not that one." The words were simple, but everyone understood what he meant. Because William wasn't looking at a piece of jewelry. He was looking at a memory that had followed him from childhood into adulthood, a memory that had become part of the history of the crown, and a memory that, even after decades, remained deeply personal. The room suddenly felt smaller. Camilla looked toward him. Charles watched his son carefully. William didn't move. He had made his position clear. And what happened afterward revealed something much deeper than a disagreement over a tiara. It revealed the difficult line William had spent his entire adult life walking. The line between protecting his mother's memory and accepting the future. To understand William's reaction, it is important to understand why Diana's jewelry carried such emotional weight. The Spencer Tiara was not simply a beautiful royal accessory. It was connected to Diana's family. It became internationally recognized when Diana wore it during some of the most photographed years of her life. The images remain familiar even decades later. Diana wearing the tiara. Diana standing beside Charles. Diana entering rooms filled with cameras. Diana becoming one of the most recognizable women in the world. For millions of people, those photographs represent an era. For William, they represent something much more intimate. His mother. That distinction is critical. The public remembers Princess Diana. William remembers Diana as the woman who raised him, the woman who took him away from the formal world of the monarchy and showed him ordinary life, the woman who could make a serious royal event feel strangely normal for two young boys, the woman whose relationship with Charles became one of the most painful chapters of the modern monarchy, and eventually, the woman whose death changed William forever. So when the tiara appeared in a conversation years later, it wasn't merely jewelry being discussed. It was history. And for William, history could still hurt. By the time Charles married Camilla, the royal family had already spent years dealing with the consequences of the past. The public had moved through different stages of the story. There had been anger. There had been sympathy. There had been endless discussion about Diana and Charles. Then there was acceptance. Charles and Camilla eventually married. Camilla became a formal part of the royal family. And over time, the institution gradually presented a new reality to the public. But families don't move forward at the same speed as institutions. That was especially true for William. As the future king, William understood that the monarchy had to move forward. As a son, however, he could never simply erase what came before. That tension became one of the defining features of his life. Publicly, he could stand beside his father. Privately, he could still carry memories of his mother. Both things could be true at the same time. And perhaps that was what made the tiara so complicated. It belonged to a family history that was still alive. The request itself was not necessarily dramatic. Camilla wanted to wear the tiara during a public appearance. From a purely ceremonial perspective, jewelry is part of royal presentation. Royal women have worn historic pieces for generations. Certain jewels move between generations. Others carry family associations. And the monarchy has always understood the importance of symbolism. But this particular piece was different. Its connection to Diana was too strong to ignore. Everyone in the room knew what the photographs would look like. They knew what newspapers would write. They knew how quickly the public would make comparisons. And William knew something else. He knew that once those photographs existed, they would never disappear. They would be reproduced for years. The image would become part of the visual history of the monarchy. Camilla wearing Diana's tiara. The image alone would be enough to reopen old conversations. For William, that wasn't a small concern. It was deeply personal. The moment William spoke, he did not explode. There was no shouting, no dramatic accusation. Instead, there was something much more characteristic of William: restraint. He simply explained that he didn't believe it was the right choice. Camilla was reportedly taken aback by the firmness of his response. Charles attempted to keep the conversation from becoming personal. But William wasn't discussing protocol. He was discussing symbolism. And symbolism was something William understood very well. He had spent his entire life surrounded by it. A crown could symbolize continuity. A uniform could symbolize duty. A palace could symbolize centuries of history. Camilla looked toward William, her expression controlled but visibly tense. "I don't understand why this has become such an issue," she said. "It's a tiara, William." William remained silent for a moment. "It isn't just a tiara," he finally replied. "You know what it represents." Camilla took a breath. "I respect your mother's memory, but I cannot spend the rest of my life avoiding everything connected to her." William's voice stayed quiet. "I'm not asking you to avoid her memory. I'm asking you to understand why this particular piece matters." Camilla looked away. "And if I wear it?" William paused. "Then people won't see you. They'll see Diana. And they'll turn it into something neither of us wants." Before the tension could deepen, Charles stepped forward. "Enough," he said gently. "Both of you." William looked at his father. Charles continued, "This isn't a battle. Camilla isn't trying to erase Diana, and William isn't trying to control you." Camilla lowered her voice. "Then what do you want me to do?" Charles answered carefully. "Choose something else, not because anyone has won, but because some memories deserve a little sensitivity." William looked at Camilla. After a long silence, he nodded. "I can accept that." Camilla exhaled. "So can I."